Staring at herself in the mirror on the restroom door. Voices in her head that mirror what she's heard before.
Hey beautiful people, it's your girl Shakima. I'm just stopping in for our celeb chats for today. And as you can probably see from the actual title of this video, I'm actually going to be doing a twofer. So I'm going to be doing a 2-for-1, really talking about what transpired in episode 4 and this week's episode 5. If you guys missed it, I did my feedback on episode 3. I'll plug it somewhere up here. So you guys can get access to sort of see that, so you guys can really understand, you know, the dynamics of what I'm doing, breaking everything down for you guys in this particular space. I don't know about you guys, but episode 4 for me was a little bit lackluster, and I feel like everything really broke out in episode 5. So I'm going to be sort of like joining my, I guess, take and analysis on both episodes so that we can really just kind of like get into it and unpack it, because I feel like episode 4 kind of like left us wanting more and episode 5 brought it. So before we get into it, guys, do be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you can be kept in the know of when I do upload these awesome little reviews for you guys, and we can go ahead and get into it, guys. So guys, for this episode we're going to be speaking on a few things. So we are actually going to speak about how OG is out here tackling everyone like she's on the football field. Like she's just tackling left, right and center. Like she's just not playing with anyone. She's just like, this is what it is. For me, we're going to really go and unpack it because, you know, there's so much to the situation with OG, but that's kind of the main thing that I really want to sort of like discuss with you guys, how she's sort of like tackling situations with everyone. And I also actually want to discuss how do you guys feel like that's the, I guess, topic of discussion for this week. Like, do you feel like OG needs therapy? I'm gonna let you guys know what I think. I'm always an advocate for professional help. It provides us with the tools to be able to obviously navigate through certain life challenges, and I don't know necessarily, she's got a lot of information, but I don't know if she's got the right tools to be able to navigate through what she's sort of like going through. So we'll be able to sort of dive deeper into that. And I really just want to talk about the fact that Jackie and Malaysia were able to sort of like make up in episode 5. It kind of led on from episode 4, 3 to 4, and now we've actually sort of like seen that unfold for episode 5, so I'm glad to sort of like see that. We'll talk a little bit about that as well, and finally we want to get into what's going on with this Febi and Nia connection through Lance. Like, what gives? You know, we want to go and chop it all up for you guys. We're going to dice it up, guys, so stay tuned. Right, guys, so I want to talk about OG tackling everyone, and I mean everyone. I'm going to start off with the, I guess, discussion that she had. I don't remember Nia's sister's name for the life of me. It just did not stick, and she's not really getting much airplay. She doesn't really have much drama going on to kind of like bring her into the mix of things like that at the minute, so she's just gone over my head in terms of her name, but she's cute. You know, she's there to kind of like keep things, I guess, somehow balanced as far as on Nia's side, if you will, because OG loves a good side, don't she? Anywho, yeah, I think that her being able to vocalize, you know, how she feels about people being able to stand up for her, or not necessarily stand up for her, because I don't think that that's how she took it. I think that Nia and her sister are actually like Nia, I'm not really sure how you pronounce it, but I'm gonna say Nia. I might say Nia from time to time as well, guys, but keep up, y'all know who I'm talking about. So I feel like the way that she, I guess, presented herself initially was a little bit tricky. You know, she got defensive because she probably felt like she was vulnerable basically to them and sharing something. And that was because her walls wasn't necessarily up with them per se, but her walls are still up with basically everybody else in the other house. That's Shawnee, Evelyn, Kristen, Malaysia. Her walls are basically still up, and her walls are even still up in the like house that she's with, like with those people as well, i.e. Jen and Jackie, but she's a little bit better at maybe kind of like peeping out every so often and, you know, engaging with people and stuff. So what I do want to say is that it is absolutely her right to be able to, you know, just disclose, look, that is a personal situation to me that I personally shared with you, and I don't appreciate you kind of like going back to have a conversation, because I'm assuming that's probably how she felt. You know, she felt like her vulnerable moment is now being sort of like taken out of context. Because let me say something to you guys, OG is not fighting for a resolve, she is fighting for a win. Again, I have to continue to touch in on it. Obviously, she's an athlete, she likes to win. It's naturally in her nature to be able to really dive deep into a situation that can basically benefit the intentions of her outcome, or the outcome of her intentions. I'm not really too sure how to put it to you guys. So pretty much what she's doing in the space is that she is arguing her point to be right. She don't want to resolve anything with anyone. She's looking for apologies. I wanted to speak on this. OG's actually looking for apologies in all the wrong places, and I do want to put this across. Now, in her conversation with Malaysia, let's skip to that, because I feel like the Nia thing, you know, they managed to address it. Nia knows that OG is super defensive, and she's basically just going to have to tread carefully. In the conversation, however, that she had with Malaysia, you know, she's looking for these apologies from people, and really the apology that her inner child is seeking. So, you know, last week in episode 4, she spoke about basically what transpired, where this colorist filter is coming from within her subconscious mind, and it gives us more insight to understand how and why she's interacting and relating to the people around her in the way that she is. But the apology that she's looking for is from that teacher, and I don't think that any apology that she gets from the girls is going to be sufficient. I don't think that any apologies that she gets from anybody else is going to be sufficient. I don't think the teacher is going to apologize, clearly, because she said what she said and she felt how she felt about it. But I feel like OG, you know, definitely needs to be able to really connect with herself, because she's so good at pointing fingers and talking about how everybody else isn't taking accountability and where they're going wrong in their own lives. She very rarely, I've had yet actually to see her take accountability for the stuff that she actually brings up. Which is why we're actually dealing with this projection from OG, because she's not owning her hurt, she's not owning her pain. She refuses to basically be vulnerable. And even in that moment where she had a moment of vulnerability with the conversation that she was having with Malaysia, where she cried, I thought, yes, this is a breakthrough moment. Now Malaysia can comfort her, you know, because she didn't get the soothing that she basically needed as a child when she experienced that situation. And now the adult version of her is still yearning for that comfort, for that soothing. And I felt like with Malaysia actually being willing to come forward and, you know, comfort her in her time of vulnerability, in her time of just being sensitive to the space, I thought that that was very big of Malaysia, considering that they were still at odds at that point and they hadn't necessarily clarified anything. OG doesn't want to make up. OG wants to basically make everybody else wrong so that she can feel better about the hurt and pain that she feels. She feels like, okay, and I'm not speaking about OG the adult, I'm speaking about OG the child, because that's my forte, guys. If y'all didn't know, that's what I do. This is why I'm doing this stuff with you guys, so you guys can gain more perspective in terms of like how I work with people in terms of doing their work. So I'm not speaking about the adult version of her, but the child version of her is basically at this place where she's kind of poking at people because of how deeply wounded she is about this situation with her teacher that hasn't been resolved. It's gone untreated. This illness has gone untreated for years, and now it's clouded her personal image of herself, and it's created filters of how she engages with others around her. I want to say particularly women, because she seems to be okay to engage in relationships with men. And again, I'm going to like really break this down for you guys so you guys really understand. Obviously, OG's African. right? They have a certain setup when it comes to the masculine and the feminine. A man is supposed to be a certain type of way, a woman is supposed to be a certain type of way. So in her relationships with men, she has actually got the image very clear about how she's supposed to show up in those relationships based on her traditional viewpoints and values that was instilled, right? When it comes to her relationships with females, that's a whole other ball game, guys. You have to bear in mind that, again, I'm going to touch in on it, she's an athlete and she's played ball with females. That's her sport. You know, she's played football with females, American football. So she's still in that place of being defensive, of being offensive and tackling. Like, she's still playing that game. Again, like I mentioned in the last episode, she is taking or transferring some of the skills from her professional life and bringing it into her personal life, and it's not necessarily going down too well. I'm concerned for OG because I don't know how strong of a friendship she has outside of the show with any females. I don't know, but I can't speak on that. My concern is that she seems to be, her walls are so thick that she isn't necessarily able to truly let people in. When people see her, and when I say see her, I mean see the pains of her trauma, see the moments of vulnerability. She doesn't like that. She doesn't seem to be able to indulge in her moments of vulnerability. She doesn't seem to be able to really live and sit in that place. She goes back to the offense. She goes back to the attack because, like I said, OG's fight is to be right, not to find a resolve. She's not trying to resolve anything with the ladies. She's utilizing this platform to speak about colorism issues based on her own personal filters. Like I said in the last episode, unfortunately, you know, Evelyn's being collateral damage to her not necessarily working through this trauma that has been deeply embedded in her heart and soul. And again, like, my heart really and truly does go out to her. Like, even in the last episode, before I saw what transpired, you know, in the last episode that I did for you guys for Celeb Chats, before I saw what transpired in episode 4, I really felt in my heart that there was something that was so deep in there that was just cutting her up in terms of her identity, how she sees herself, her self-worth, her value, her self-esteem as a result of that, you know. And I could really feel that that was deeply, heavily on her heart. And because she's having to basically, the child version of her is having to fight off the demons of all of those insecurities. She's just not willing to be vulnerable with anyone. And even if she has a moment of vulnerability, that child is still in a defense mode where it's just wanting to be able to protect itself. So until OG is ready to let her guards down and be open to a resolve, I don't necessarily see things going any differently. I don't necessarily see things going any differently, guys, but fingers crossed, you know, hopefully she will get to a place where she sees that for some, not everybody, because I don't think that everybody genuinely has their best interest at heart. I appreciate Malaysia and Kristen for going over to make another attempt at, you know, really trying to understand the layer of what's going on within OG versus the mask that she's wearing to say that she's okay and she's not bothered, and the things that she went through didn't break her, it made her. Yes, it made her into the adult that she is today, but there's still so much room for us to grow, guys. Let's not forget that. So her going back to process some of that trauma, who knows what that could do for her self-esteem, her self-worth issues, her own feelings of insecurity because of her color and shade, to be specific, because she's very clear that she's experiencing colorism within the group because of how she feels towards her color. That's just my personal opinion, because I haven't necessarily heard anybody antagonize OG based on her complexion. I've seen them and heard them antagonize some of her own insecurities based on the way that she dresses, based on the things that she does, her behavior, the way she chooses to carry herself. They've attacked those things, but I've never really actually heard anybody attack her color. So that's clearly something that she's kind of like dealing with on the inside. The way as well that, so we all have, guys, narcissistic traits and tendencies. The way her narcissist was not here for Jen. Like, Jen was really trying to share, and it was interesting to see the dynamics of that, because her not basically being open to Jen sharing her personal experience, like Jen's moment of vulnerability. So basically, we know that OG has an issue with vulnerability. She doesn't know how to necessarily handle vulnerability, and she doesn't necessarily know how to be able to be vulnerable because she's so busy being strong. You know, she's busy being that strong woman. And I get that. We've all been there. We've all shared that story. But at some point, you actually understand the strengths in your vulnerability because you understand that that's actually the moment that's going to make you better and less bitter, you know? So I am hoping that, you know, Jen and OG can actually work through some of the things that has come up, I guess. But I feel like for now, Jen's going to actually back off because OG's narcissistic traits has shown up, and this is why she's basically continuing to perpetuate. That's the ultimate shadow that is continuing to perpetuate this whole me against everyone perspective, basically, because narcissistic traits is where we pretty much make everything about ourselves and make everybody else what it is that they're doing or not doing about us. And her narcissistic traits are actually really rubbing people the wrong way, like Nia, for instance. She didn't see Nia's intention of basically trying to, you know, just basically rectify the situation with the group. And I don't think she cares for what Nia is trying to do because she's not looking to rectify any issues in the group. She's looking to basically self-soothe herself by tearing everybody else down in the process so that she can appear a certain type of way. And I want to say this, I'm simply doing my psychoanalysis, okay, of OG. This isn't any personal feelings towards OG because I can see that VH1 is Basketball Wives, basically, the production is pretty much like full-blown pushing this narrative to really make OG appear a certain type of way, which I can see that as well. So I am going to, you know, acknowledge that they are basically pushing this narrative of her basically being, you know, closed off, shut down, not engaging genuinely with people, being a, how can I put it, you know, just being a bit of a dominant in this space, right? And they're really kind of like pushing that narrative, and I see that. But also, I understand that we can't blame editing for everything, right? Editing takes what has occurred and puts it into a perspective. It doesn't necessarily mean that she didn't perpetuate these exact same things. So even though I can see what editing is doing, it seems to be very clear that that's naturally what's occurring anyways, unfortunately. It may have been like chopped up in terms of her, you know, engagement with Jen when it was just them two at the house. But Jen was really, you know, trying to come from a place of, you know, nobody else is here. Like, let's actually just try to get along for the sake of it. And also yesterday was already an awkward moment. You basically like came for me when I was just trying to have like my own personal perspective. It's like OG doesn't want anybody else to have a perspective if it's not correlating with her own, which is very tricky for everybody else to sort of like navigate through, right? And where Jen had already dealt with that tension from her the night before, she was just trying to, you know, lighten the mood, like let their relationship go to another level, deepen their connection. And OG was just not having any of it. She was just like, pretty much like, life is about me. It's about what I'm doing. Stuff what you're doing, Jen. Nobody cares. What I'm doing on this platform, relating to what's already a global issue with this colorist thing, like, that's the real story. And I don't want to be coming like I'm coming for OG, but I'm just letting you guys know, like, that's literally what I observed. I observed that, like, she doesn't necessarily want any other discussion blowing up on the platform at the minute, from what I've observed, other than her colorist issues, because she's here to basically, she's here to win, not to resolve, okay? So that being said, that brings me to my next question, guys. People's Court. Does OG need therapy? What do you guys think? Comment down below. I'm going to let you guys know my verdict. This isn't a difficult one. The answer is absolutely yes. This girl needed therapy maybe 10, 15 years ago. Like, the deep-rooted issues that she has with this perspective that has filtered her experiences with and of people is a very, very serious illness. Very, very serious illness, guys. It's an emotional illness, basically. This is why I keep calling it an illness, she's sick on the inside emotionally from what she experienced as a child, and she hasn't necessarily got over it. She hasn't gotten past it. She's just moved on, not forward, moved on. So life continued to, keep going, but she is pretty much stuck. That child that experienced whatever engagement she had with that teacher, because I'm sure it even probably goes deeper than that for her, she's still stuck there. She hasn't moved forward from there, and she needs to be able to get herself in with a psychiatrist, a therapist, a coach, a counselor. She needs to speak to somebody who is able to professionally unpack what it is that is going on within herself, because I'm sure the dynamics of that must be very, very tricky. Like, let's be clear here, OG is for real an African princess, Lidge a princess back home in Africa. So for her to be put on this how can I put it? For her to be sort of like put on this pedestal as being a princess in her homeland, and then be, basically tore apart for the exact same things that she's being praised for in her homeland, and so much more in a foreign land, like, that's very difficult for a child to process. Where do you even begin? So she has to do a very, very, very in-depth unpacking process, because that luggage is far overdue, girl. That needed to be checked a long time ago. So hopefully, she'll be able to get the right help that she needs, and she'll be able to, engage in having relationships a little bit better, where her filters aren't constantly projecting her perspective and clouding her judgment as a result of that. And I don't dispute, like I said, that the girls have been, less than kind to OG at times, but it's for different reasons. It's not for her skin tone, it's not for her color, it's because of who she is as a person. And I don't know how else to put it, like how she shows up in the world. Those are the things really that is causing a lot of the disconnect. And also for them as well, a lot of the things that they actually despise in OG are the things that they actually have within themselves. How about that, guys? They're out here hating on OG about her being aggressive, or her being defensive, or her being, less than tactful about certain things. But the reality is, some of these ladies have been on the show for a while, and this is OG's second season. Like, they learnt on the job. OG's doing the same thing. So I'm hoping that as this season continues, we're able to see more of OG actually being able to do her work instead of projecting what she isn't doing in terms of her work. I think that would be great to see from her. Another thing that I want to talk to you guys before I close out the space, Jackie and Malaysia making up. Now, I'm here for this, guys. I'm so here for this, because like I said to you guys in the last episode, I love Jackie and Malaysia together. But it's literally like I said there as well, I called it. Malaysia was losing patience with Jackie. She's like, how much more can I put up with? And I also called exactly what was sort of showing up there as well. She felt like, how could you continue to perpetuate these rumors? You're supposed to be my friend. Like, that's causing mistrust issues for me. And that's, like I mentioned in that episode, I'm gonna plug it again somewhere here, guys, because you guys need to really be able to have a look into that and see how I pretty much just called everything that showed up in this particular episode. Y'all don't even know unless you see that video. Okay. But yes, the makeup situation was good. I'm glad to see that they're back in a good place. When Malaysia was like, oh, you can rub my butt, I'm like, what, is a genie gonna come out? What's the thing with rubbing her butt? But each to their own, if that's what floats their boat, who am I to judge? Closing out the space, I just want to talk to you guys about the whole Febi and Nia situation. Nia, whatever her name is, girl. That is interesting to me. Phoebe's like, she's a whole stalker. Guys, between you and I want you guys to really tell me, because there was a point that she said, she just wants to be me. And I was slightly confused, because, like, no shade, no tea, okay? where exactly is anybody going trying to be like Phoebe? Like, what does Phoebe do in the nicest possible way? Like, I want you guys to let me know in the comments below, what is it that Phoebe does? Why would anybody want to basically be her? What is it that makes Phoebe so amazing that Nia is going to be pretty much trying to cat her and, you know, clout on her name? You know, I didn't know that that was a thing. Like, Phoebe's like so new to me. Like, this is my first time experiencing her, one on reality TV, but also in general, in last season. So I don't know, maybe she feels like she's made it now that she's on Basketball Wives and Nia's coming for her because now she's coming on Basketball Wives. Maybe you guys can explain that to me, because I just didn't get it when she made that statement. I was like, oh, is she? Is that a thing? Why she want to be you, girl? So I was a little bit confused about that. But you guys, you know, clarify for me. Let me know what parts did not connect for me with that situation. Talking about, like, what's taking place there, I hope to see them actually resolve whatever issues that they've got going on. Again, because the adult in me, I'm not really for dysfunctional patterns. I'm not really for, you know, let's just kind of like bitch about the situation. The way that Evelyn delivered the news as well, though, like, he was kind of like expecting, it seemed like she was expecting a little bit of a fight from Phoebe. Like, you know, oh, she with your man, girl. She's saying she dated your man. So I feel like that's kind of how Evelyn and Shawnee delivered the information to her. But I hope that they can actually, like, come to some sort of resolve, because I wouldn't want to see, like, women on TV fighting over a man. Like, least of all a man that Nia said that she ain't with. Like, you don't need to fight over somebody that you ain't with. Like, that's just, that's not even petty. That's not dysfunctional. That's just, if you ask me, less than smart. That's me putting it nicely, guys. There you go. That would be less than smart. What I do want to sort of like speak about closing out this space as well, because I didn't really see much of Liza. I think I got like a one-liner from her. I didn't really see much of Evelyn in this episode, other than her basically like bringing the tea to Phoebe. I think I spelled her name wrong as well in the last episode, Phoebe. So I'm going to spell it right. It's a process, guys. I'm learning. I didn't know that people actually spelled Phoebe F-E-B-I, but that's a thing. You know, it's a thing for her. So we're going to get her name right and keep it moving. And I feel like we didn't really get to see much maybe of Kristen as such in this episode either, but I didn't think that like it was relevant. You know, we saw little bits and pieces of what we needed to of them. So yeah, closing everything out, guys. This was a really good couple of episodes. 4 and 5. 4 was a little bit underwhelming for me, which is why I didn't even bother to do like the review just on 4, because, you know, I want to be able to sort of like catch up and be current, and I didn't feel like doing a review solely on episode 4 was worth it to kind of like keep lagging a week behind. So I figured I'd just catch up with you guys and bring it all the way right up to episode 5. So yeah, I hope you guys liked this. If you did, and you feel like you want to be able to kind of, you know, tune in for more awesomeness, definitely be sure to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you felt like, you know, you got a different perspective. You might have been coming here for the tea, but you got some how to do your work instead. Let me know if you guys like that by giving me a thumbs up, and definitely be sure to comment down below on your personal perspective. Does OG need therapy to be able to work through this colorist issue that she's actually projecting onto the girls? Let me know. Okay, my loves, so on that note, I'm gonna love you guys and leave it there for you guys. Full enjoy your day, my loves, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Until then, mwah, take care, keep doing your work.
Things they said to hold her back, they never seem to leave her head, and tend to keep her minded.